a very fitting way for the New York Yankees to head into the All-Star break with an absolutely total joke of a game and series versus the Chicago Cubs. They lose 2-3, and the big news now is that the Yankees have fired hitting coach Dillon Lawson. And, it's something. It's something. I don't really think it's going to make a major difference, but, it's significant in the sense that Brian Cashman, in his long tenure as general manager, has never fired a coach in season. And that now has come to an end. He has fired Dillon Lawson, who was the hitting coach last season as well. And look, the Yankees last season, for the most part, it was a successful campaign for the Yankees offensively. Obviously, things had tailed off, more so second half of the season and into the postseason. But, for year one for Lawson, it was good. This first half was an absolute disaster, judge or no judge, just completely unacceptable results. And so the Yankees will be hiring someone from outside the organization to take over as hitting coach. There was a thought that maybe that they would promote from within. I know Brad Wilkerson is thought of highly. He's one of the two assistant hitting coaches, but he will not be promoted. It'll be someone from outside the organization. And the plan is that will be set for when they come out of the All-Star break at Colorado. So Dillon Lawson out, and, again, you understand why. I don't think this is going to necessarily be like the master plan that works. I think that in some ways Dillon Lawson was a scapegoat here, but at the same time, the approach was terrible. The statistics were just downright ugly, and it's easier to fire the coach than it is to fire the players. So Lawson out, and that is obviously going to be a big story here. But that obviously, and I think the final straw, after the embarrassment against the Orioles where they lost 14-1, and really they were lucky to score that one run in the ninth. It was actually an unearned run. And then it will kind of transition a little bit into this series. Jameson Taillon, who had been really one of the worst pitchers in baseball, maybe not quite as bad as Luis Severino, but pretty damn close. Taillon, who I think among qualified pitchers might have had the worst ERA in the National League, something to that effect, pitches 8 innings of one-hit shutout ball against the Yankees. Just absolutely pathetic. And so eventually after this Sunday game, and we're going to discuss a lot about this last game here where the Gleyber-Torres fuck-ups continue. And it's just, whether it be mental miscues, whether it be just fielding fuck-ups, I've had it with him, and I've said this before. And the sad thing is this: Gleyber-Torres is one of this team's best hitters. Not even a question. Gleyber-Torres is Gleyber-Torres in this current lineup without Aaron Judge, you could argue is their best hitter. Honestly, there could be some arguments to be had, but if you said, hey, Gleyber is their best, just pure, consistent hitter without Judge, I couldn't completely disagree with that. However, this guy makes so many mistakes in big spots and just inexcusable ones that, look, I am looking forward to the day that he is traded. I am. And you know what? I just hope that you trade him when he still has, a good amount of value. I would try to trade him sooner than later. I don't think it'll happen because they're just so desperate, and you get rid of a guy like him, and it just makes your offense that much worse. But man, just a terrible misplayed potential inning double play where if that is turned, there's a very, very high chance the Yankees win the game and win the series. But it doesn't happen. And then we'll discuss Boone pulling Herman at 74 pitches. It's a fucking curious one. And I thought Boone made a lot of bad decisions in that last game, boy. And just his bullpen management lately has been especially bad. Really, really bad. And what I find happening a lot is he's having the lower leverage guys end up pitching in the bigger spots, and then the higher leverage guys pitching in the lesser spots. That can't happen. That cannot happen. And that's happening way, way too much, where it's a lost cause by the time the good guys come in, and you're just getting cute and putting the shittier ones in key situations. And it just seems like it's happening with more frequency. So let's start to talk about this series. And again, Yankees 49-42 heading into this break, where Garrett Cole will be the only Yankee representing this team. Aaron Judge will not play in Seattle. He might go. He's undecided. And Garrett Cole will find out whether there's a chance that he starts. That's the one bright, shining light, from this first half, if you want to call it the first half. We're beyond that now. But Garrett Cole was the one consistent piece that really, really delivered. Of course, there's always going to be some lowlights, and there were a couple of them, but he was honestly really, really good. So when you talk about individuals, he was, up there as really the best for the Yankees. But this was Jameson Taillon versus Carlos Rodon, game one. And in game one, we find out that Jake Bauers does officially go on the IL, which we knew was going to happen. And Franchi Cordero, as I kind of predicted, did take that roster spot. So not Esteban Florial. And I think part of it is to do with 40-man roster. And I wish that didn't come into it, but it does. Not that I'm the biggest Florial fan, but, Franchi, is kind of, he doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence. Although Franchi did get one of their 2 hits on Friday night. He would be in that starting lineup, and he would get one of their 2 hits. It was in the 9th inning, actually, off of Alzolay, the Cub closer. But in game one, so Volpe led off the first 2 games. It seems like with Volpe, it's better to have him not at leadoff. Have him lower in the lineup. The results are there, right? It wasn't as if he looked horrible in the leadoff spot, but it does seem as if it's better to have him lower. And we saw that in game 3 of the series, and he hit a big home run, which should have mattered more, but it didn't. So that's something to think about for Volpe, but overall, good progress there. And Volpe has 13 home runs at this juncture in the season. Pretty good stuff as far as that goes. And I was really down on him, and he's picked it up. You look at the problems on this team, and he is not super high on that list at all. In game 1, you saw DJ LeMahieu on the bench for this one. He would play games 2 and 3, and you're just not getting much out of him. Right? You're just simply not. You're getting a hit. You're getting some hits from him. Can't think of too many multi-hit games from DJ. Can't think of, it was interesting. Early in the season, he wasn't doing all that well, but he was hitting for pop. It was interesting. He was striking out more, but he was homering and getting extra base hits. Now, it's just not a whole lot of anything from DJ. So that's a frustration. Another guy that continues to struggle, and maybe there was a bit of bad luck, but Anthony Rizzo against his former team, just nothing's going on there. Again, no homers since, what was it, against the Reds, I think? Like May 20th or so? Just insane. Just insane. We're going to go on almost 2 months since Anthony Rizzo homered. Like, that's nuts. That is unacceptable stuff, and it's not as if he's really doing a whole lot besides that. So that's a problem. There were signs of life from Giancarlo Stanton in this series, which was good. Game 2, he had a mammoth home run. He had 2 homers. One was a cheapie. One was just a crazy Stanton shot. And Donaldson homers in this series. Yeah, so with Donaldson, it's kind of par for the course where, he homers. And Donaldson, again, like, he, is improving slightly, but it's still not nearly good enough, obviously. Donaldson is the one that gets booed, and I get that. But also, I think LeMahieu deserves to get booed. I think Rizzo deserves to get booed. And that never happens. But, so, Jameson Taillon versus Carlos Rodon. So, it's Carlos Rodon's debut as a New York Yankee, and it was a successful one. It was very efficient to start, and really made one mistake to Cody Bellinger, and that's kind of the talk. Cody Bellinger, as far as Yankee trade rumors, like, this is kind of the one that Yankee, where John Heyman and others, and it makes sense, and his father, Clay, was on the Yankees during those dynasty years, as a bench utility guy, and his son is really, had a really good stretch with the Dodgers. He's a bit inconsistent and streaky, but it's been a really nice season for him. He had a hitting streak snapped, but Cody Bellinger homers in this game, and that was really the one mistake Rodon made. He only goes 5 1/3, but that was because, it was his first start. He only threw 69 pitches. He was very efficient. Only 2 strikeouts, but again, a positive outing where if the Yankees had any semblance of offense, you'd be looking at it a lot differently. But Rodon, pitches pretty well. But the Yankees could not touch Jameson Taillon, who came in with a near 7 ERA coming into this outing. So, Glaber gets a single in the first inning, and that was the one hit the Yankees would have versus Taillon. Little did we know at the time, that was it. Just truly embarrassing. Truly, truly embarrassing. In the third, Cody Bellinger homers. His 9th homer of the year gives the Cubs a 1-0 lead. Then in the 5th, Rodon with a couple of walks that hurt him. A walk to Mancini, then a one-out walk to Amaya, and then with 2 out, you get an RBI single by Nico Horner, gives the Cubs a 2-0 lead. In the 6th, Rodon would be taken out. Ian Hamilton comes on, and we'll talk about Hamilton further. But, in this one, he gets the ground ball double play, which is good, and that's kind of what he was going for. So I'll give him that, I guguess. He almost got that in Game 3. I haven't been impressed by Hamilton since his return. I need to see more from him, but, he's been in some tough spots, and again, he just came back, so hoping he can, refine what he had before the injury. Top of the 7th, Ron Marinaccio comes on. Ron Marinaccio has been terrible, right? I mean, with Marinaccio, to me, that's bottom of the bullpen stuff. He should only really be ahead of like the Albert Abreu's and the Nick Ramirez's, and so like the way that Marinaccio is used. And look, like, I understand that he's going to have to be in some big spots. He's going to have to be naturally. But the thing is, just forgetting about pecking order, Marinaccio has not been good for a bit. Like, even in good times, it never felt right. So, for Ron, definitely been a rough stretch. He could really use this break. And it's just I'd say that was a disappointing first half for Marinaccio. I think came into the season, there was a lot of high hopes. And he was pitching well for a while, but again, like lately, the whip is up to 1.3, a lot of walks, which is always a thing for Marinaccio, even in good times last year. But just not happy with with what he's doing. And so what happens here is Bellinger singles, steals second, and then with 1 out, an RBI double for Patrick Wisdom gives the Cubs a 3-0 lead. Tommy Kahnle comes on, pitches a scoreless 8th inning. And for Tommy Kahnle, he's been, really good since coming back. We'll talk about what he did in Game 3 of this series. And then, Tyone goes 8 strong with 1 hit allowed, just embarrassing and unacceptable. Clay Holmes pitches the 9th inning. This is what I'm talking about, where you end up having Kahnle and Holmes pitch in the 8th and 9th down 3. It seems to be working out where the highest leverage guys are not in the spots you really want them and need them in. And some of the lesser guys are in those bigger spots. But, sometimes it's unavoidable, but still. Bottom of the 9th, Alzolay comes on. Encouraging beginning with a Franchi Cordero single, but then Volpe grounds in double play, and then Glaber with an ugly strikeout. And the Yankees lose it 3-0 to the Cubs. Let's jump to Game 2. Game 2 would be between Drew Smyly and Garrett Cole. And for Garrett Cole, pitched really well. Really made one mistake to Mike Tauchman. So it's kind of funny how you've seen a lot of former Yankees with success, whether that be a Montgomery or a Tyone pitchers, or whether it be hitters, right? Aaron Hicks or Joey Gallo even homered, and Mike Tauchman. And I'm sure there's more, but it just seems like that's a thing. But Tauchman would homer later in this game. But the story really was Giancarlo Stanton in this one, and of course Cole. But and as far as the lineup here, nothing of real significance that I can really say for this lineup. It was a right-handed heavy lineup against the lefty Smyly. And that's another thing, too, is that the Yankees lately, and it kind of makes sense with the right-handed heavy lineup, the Yankees have been a lot better versus lefties than righties. The Yankees have had their struggles versus righties, but they kind of did get to Kyle Hendricks. So, again, that's the frustrating thing with Game 3, and I've been teasing it, and I'll get there. So, Game 2, it's a first inning run for the Yanks. Giancarlo Stanton with a impressive 450 or ish foot bomb off the facing of the upper deck in left field. You don't see it hit there too often. Down the line, just a Stantonian, not even Stantonian, but this had like more arc. This was a liner and arc. One of the more impressive home runs you'll see, and if he can get going, that would be huge. Unfortunately, in Game 3, he went 0 for 4, but this was a good game for Stanton. Gives the Yankees 1-0 lead. And then in the second inning, Josh Donaldson, his 10th homer of the season, and the stat at the time was, I think, a record where since 1901, 10 home runs on 14 hits. The record had been 10 home runs on 15 hits. Just crazy, where all his hits are homers, essentially. And so the Yankees take a 2-0 lead. In the third, the Cubs get a run back. It would be a leadoff double by Mastrobuoni, and eventually you get an RBI grand up by Nico Horner. Cuts the lead to 2-1, but the Yankees get a couple more in the third. It would be bases loaded 1 out for Harrison Bader, and Bader just seems to find a way to get the big hits. The stats aren't overly crazy. They're solid. They're okay, but it's a 2-run double for Bader. Gives Yankees a 4-1 lead. We go to the bottom of the 5th, and Smiley's out of the game. Cubs bring on the right-hander Michael Rucker, and Stanton hits a 2-run homer. It's his ninth homer of the year, his second of the game, and opposite field. Originally it was going to be a triple for Stan, which you never see, but it was the right call. It went off of the foul pole in right field, and so a homer for Stanton again gives the Yankees a 6-1 lead. Then we'll jump to the eighth. Cole's still in there. And with one out, Mastrobuoni singles. Then Tauchman, it's a 2-run homer. Tauchman's third homer of the year. I'm sure it had to feel good for him in his first game. I don't think he appeared in that in night one. So really, I think in his literally first game back at Yankee Stadium, he homers. And so then Michael King comes on. And that's the unfortunate thing too. And King was probably bound to come in this game regardless of the Tauchman homer. But you could have used King in game 3. But either way, King gets the final 2 outs of the eighth. And it was a 2-out hit by pitch to Christopher Morel, but then he gets Yan Gomes to fly out. Nice catch by Bader to end it. And the Yankees tie the series up. They win it 6-3. And now we head into game 3. And remember when I used to say Yankees really good in rubber games? Feels like that's just not the case anymore, where that stat, which was special early, probably isn't anymore. And this was a very, very frustrating loss, to say the least, going into the All-Star break. So in this one, a normal type lineup, no kind of, makes, McKinney versus the righty, no kind of Falefa in the lineup. Donaldson DHing, and, he's been a bit banged up, and we would see that again in here where, a lower body situation for Donaldson. He wouldn't leave the game, but we'll get there. But the Yankees take the lead again, and this was a matchup between Kyle Hendricks, who had been pitching pretty well. The veteran had been pitching well, but the Yankees did eventually get to him. And he kind of limited the damage. Yankees had opportunities to kind of break this game open. Eventually, they kind of did later, though. That's why this game is beyond maddening. But Domingo Germán pitched really, really well. Only gave up 1 hit in 6 innings plus, had 9 strikeouts, and they pulled the plug on him just simply too soon. And we've seen that a lot this year, where they just take Germán out way earlier than they need to. He was looking really good. So in the first inning, Yankees get on the board, and it is a leadoff single for Torres, goes to second on a Stanton ground out, and then RBI double by Rizzo. So a rare bit of production from Anthony Rizzo. An RBI double gives the Yankees a 1-0 lead. And then Germán and Hendricks settled in for a while there. Again, opportunities for the Yankees to score, push across more runs. They didn't. In the 5th, Suzuki hits his 7th homer of the year, breaks up the no-hitter, and it's 1-1. Let's go to the bottom of the 6th. A 1-out single for Billy McKinney. And then a 2-out, 2-run homer for Anthony Volpe, his 13th homer of the year. A big homer. And again, for Volpe, it feels like a lot of the homers have been big ones. And that makes it 3-1. And then Kyle Higashioka hits his 5th homer of the year. A lucky Yankee Stadium homer to the opposite field. But Higgy has been good. I mean, Higgy is up to like 239. Like, honestly, not only should Higgy play more than Trevino, and look, defensively, I guess I'd give Trevino the slight edge. It's probably not like a huge one, but a slight one. But Higgy, when he plays, he should be batting higher than 8th or 9th, honestly. He's been that good. They should start considering, and again, maybe that's a mistake. Maybe he's more comfortable down there, but just moving up to maybe 6th or 7th when the occasion strikes. And so the Yankees make it 4-1. And then in the 7th, it's disaster time. So Ian Happ walks, and then Germán is out. So they were going batter to batter. They bring Ian Hamilton in, and it hurts bringing Hamilton in. It's one thing if you bring in Canely. It's one thing if you bring in a Holmes. It's one thing if it's Michael King. Ian Hamilton, like I said, he just hasn't been good lately. And I can't blame Ian Hamilton. It's not as if this is his fault coming up here, but let's talk about it. He gets 1 out, and then Cody Bellinger singles. So it's 1st and 2nd 1 out for Christopher Morel, and this is the big play of the game. He hits ground ball the 2nd. It should have been a double play. Now, Morel has speed, so I'm not going to go as far as to say it was a definite double play, but at least you get 1. And Torres boots it. Absolutely boots it. It's his 9th error. I believe he has the most errors among it's 1st or 2nd among second basemen in Major League Baseball. And so that makes it basically a 1-out situation. They bring on Tommy Canely. And Canely, you really can't fault Canely. Now, I mean, if you're getting greedy, you wish that there was a strikeout somewhere because Canely is capable of getting strikeouts. But what happens is this. Jared Young gets an RBI ground out to first. Rizzo only had 1 play at first. And then Yan Gomes pinch hits for Patrick Wisdom. And, it seemed like the Cubs are just pushing the right buttons. And an 0-2 pitch, and it was out of the strike zone. It was a high pitch, but Gomes just kind of fights it into center field, and it dunks in for a game-tying insurance single. That hurt a lot. And so at that point, you're angry with Glaber. You're angry with Boone to an extent. And, it's too bad that Canely couldn't come through there. Again, wasn't really his fault, though. But Gleyber Torres with just an absolute fuck up that cost them this game eventually. But Aaron Boone to take out Herman with 74 pitches to bring in Hamilton just doesn't sit right with me. So we go to the top of the 8th and Ron Marinaccio comes on, and that's unfortunate too. Ron Marinaccio comes in a tie game in the 8th inning. That's very unfortunate. So Canely had thrown 16 pitches, so they did not bring him back out for the 8th. Marinaccio, absolute disaster. Tachman single, Horner walk, Happ walk, and he's out. So Clay Holmes comes on in a bases loaded no out spot. And Holmes was not, and look, this is a tough spot for Clay, and he didn't really do all that well. They bring Oswaldo Cabrera in for Billy McKinney. And the idea there was that they're going to have 5 infielders, which again, to me is like, fine. It's kind of over-managing it, but whatever. And stupidly, Clay Holmes throws a slider. Like, pitch to what you have behind you. Go with your classic sink. And he doesn't do that. And so Suzuki gets a sac fly, and Stanton should have thrown it to third. Maybe there was a play at third. Instead, he throws it in the direction of home. There was no play at home. And so it's a sac fly, and the runner advances to third. Then there's, on the first pitch, of course, wild pitch Clay Holmes. Wild pitch, and that makes it 6-4. So that was costly, because then he actually does kind of get out of it. So it could have stayed 5-4, but between Stanton and then the wild pitch, it's 6-4 Cubs. Then there's a rain delay. There was about a 20 to 30 minute rain delay, but didn't really matter. There was a 2-out single by Higashioka, but then Gleyber lines out to end the inning. Then in the ninth, Nick Ramirez comes on. And that reminds me, Clark Schmidt was available in this game. Why couldn't you bring Clark Schmidt in instead of Ian Hamilton? Just saying. Like, that should have been on the table. In terms of pecking order, who do you trust more, Clark Schmidt or Ian Hamilton, based on how Clark is pitching lately? I'm not saying that it's a no-brainer, right? If we had discussed this 2 months ago, I probably would have said Hamilton. But with the way that Schmidt has been, with the way Hamilton has been, and Nick Ramirez starts the ninth and he gets into trouble. Nick Ramirez, look, it was a good run for him. He is not all that good. He is a bottom-of-the-barrel option. You got an infield single for Young. He's still second. And I thought that play was close to second. I don't know why Boone didn't challenge it. He just let it go. I don't get it. And then a sack bunt by Mastrobuoni where Higashioka probably should have just taken the out at first. So a lot of sloppiness is going on here now as well. And he's safe at third. Young safe at third. And then Tucker Barnhart. That's where Nick Ramirez just isn't all that good. Barnhart, a weak hitting lefty. And Barnhart rips an RBI double, makes it 7-4. He then does get Tachman a ground out. They then bring Clark Schmidt, and what do you know? He gets the job done. He strikes out Horner and grounds out Happ. Just adds to the frustration that Schmidt wasn't in earlier. Then Alzolay, the closer for the Cubs, makes easy work of the Yankees. Stanton ground out, Rizzo fly out, Bader fly out. So Yankees lose a very disappointing series. They finished the homestand 3-4. They are 2 and they are 49-42 on the season, 7 back in the loss column of the Rays and Orioles, and as we speak, they are out of the playoffs. They are 1 back on the loss side of the Astros and the Blue Jays. So let's quickly talk about this upcoming series after the break against the Rockies. And I'm not seeing any probable starters for Colorado, so I'm not going to get into that, but it sounds like, at least the preliminary plans for the Yankees are as follows. It'll be Rodon, Schmidt, and Cole, probably in that order. Maybe things change it shouldn't. Schmidt barely pitched, and so today. So it sounds like those 3. That kind of makes sense. I was thinking about it, and that combination kind of makes sense. You don't want to go to Sevy. And Herman pitched today. Like, you could go Herman. I mean, the guy only threw 74 pitches. So, I suppose that's in the offing, and maybe what Cole does or doesn't do on Tuesday night's game could have an effect. But that's kind of the preliminary thought there. And for and against Colorado, let me just see something there. I think Colorado's one of those teams. They're not a good team, but I think they're a lot better at home. They are. Colorado is so it's kind of Yankees kind of didn't catch a break in terms of the scheduling, where Colorado's 14-33 on the road, 20-24 at home, which isn't great at all, but significantly better. So I don't think that's going to be easy. Then they go to play the Angels. Now the Yankees catch a break with no Trout. We'll see what Ohtani's status is pitcher-wise. He should be fine as a hitter. But the Angels, who are struggling right now, so you're kind of catching them at the right time. But I think those 6 games are going to be tough. Again, if I'm predicting right now, the way I see this Yankee club, I'm seeing 3-3. I'm hoping for 4-2. It kind of reminds me of the Oakland Cardinals situation, where I'm hoping for 4-2. But being honest with myself, I kind of see 3-3. So Yankees with a very disappointing and fitting way to go into the All-Star break. They lose to the Cubs, and then they fire their hitting coach, Dillon Lawson. We will find out who takes over as hitting coach. Again, it will be outside the organization. And for Brian Cashman, this is for his in his terms and based on his track record, this is a big deal. I don't think that this is going to make a major difference, but it definitely is the start of something. And so that is going to be a big story coming out of this first half. Wish Garrett Cole the best of luck in Seattle. And hopefully the Yankees come out of this and, they really got to get stuff done. They go to Colorado, they go to LA. This will be, a situation where they need to hit the ground running out of the break. And we'll see what happens. But again, Yankees lose 2 out of 3 to the Cubs at home, and Dillon Lawson is dismissed. He is relieved of his duties as New York Yankees hitting coach.